They say revenge is a dish best served cold. In my case, it was served over the course of 18 months. Each moment of retribution carefully prepared like courses in an elaborate meal. My name is Vanessa Mitchell. And this is the story of how I dismantled the life of the woman who stole everything from me. One calculated move at a time. Rebecca Collins and I had been inseparable since college. We shared dreams, secrets, and eventually a business. Enchanted Events started in my garage with my life savings and a vision I had nurtured since childhood. Rebecca joined 6 months later, when I needed help with the growing client list. I trusted her implicitly, made her an equal partner despite her minimal investment. "We're in this together," I told her as we clinked champagne glasses at our modest office opening. Best friends, best business partners. She had smiled that brilliant smile that charmed everyone, including me. For 5 years, we built our event planning company into the most sought-after service in 3 counties. Celebrities, wealthy families, and corporate giants all wanted the Enchanted Events experience. We were featured in magazines, invited to industry panels, and approached about franchising opportunities. Success tasted sweet, especially because I shared it with someone I considered a sister. The first hint that something was wrong came during the preparations for the Henderson wedding, our biggest event to date. The client was the daughter of a state senator, the budget was astronomical, and the expectations were stratospheric. I had secured the contract through personal connections and countless hours of preparation. It was my masterpiece, the culmination of everything I had worked toward. "I think I should take point on the Henderson wedding," Rebecca suggested during our weekly planning meeting. "You seem stressed lately. You could use a break from the spotlight." I had been working 16-hour days, finalizing details for 3 other events while preparing for the Henderson wedding. Exhaustion clouded my judgment. "Are you sure? This is a massive undertaking." "Absolutely," she assured me, squeezing my hand with sisterly affection. "You focus on the Johnsons and the corporate events. I have got this handled." I should have recognized the predatory gleam in her eyes, but fatigue and trust blinded me. I handed over my carefully organized binder with color-coded tabs and detailed timelines. "Thank you. I appreciate this more than you know." 2 weeks later, I was in the hospital with severe pneumonia. My immune system, compromised by months of overwork and stress, had finally surrendered. Rebecca visited once, bringing a small bouquet and promises to keep everything running smoothly. "Do not worry about anything," she insisted. "Just focus on getting better." I spent 10 days in that antiseptic-scented room, drifting in and out of consciousness as antibiotics waged war against the infection in my lungs. When I was finally discharged, weak and 20 pounds lighter, I called Rebecca to let her know I would be back in the office the following week. "Actually," she began, her voice carrying an unfamiliar chill, "we need to talk about the business." We met at a cafe near my apartment, neutral territory, I realized later. She looked polished and rested, wearing a new designer outfit I had not seen before. I sat across from her in clothes that hung loosely on my diminished frame, dark circles shadowing my eyes despite the makeup I had carefully applied. "While you were sick, I had to make some executive decisions," she explained, stirring her latte with precision. "The Henderson wedding was approaching, clients were getting nervous about your absence, and the business could not afford uncertainty." I nodded, waiting for her to continue, a strange unease settling in my stomach. "I brought in legal counsel to review our partnership agreement," she said, sliding a document across the table. "Given recent circumstances, I believe it makes sense to restructure." The restructuring was nothing short of a corporate coup. During my illness, Rebecca had convinced 3 of our major clients, including the Hendersons, that the company's success was primarily due to her efforts. She had opened a separate business bank account, redirected incoming payments, and even filed paperwork to establish a new company, Rebecca Collins Events. "This is insane," I whispered, hands trembling as I read the document. "You cannot do this. We are partners. Equal partners." "We're partners," she corrected with clinical detachment. "The new arrangement reflects the current reality. You get 30% of the existing company, I get 70%. All new clients will go through my new venture." It is quite generous, considering your extended absence put everything at risk. Extended absence? I was hospitalized with pneumonia. I almost died. Rebecca sighed as if dealing with a difficult child. Business does not stop for personal problems, Vanessa. The clients needed stability and confidence. I provided that. By stealing our company? By stealing my clients. I secured our future, she countered. Sign the papers, take the 30%, and focus on your recovery. Or do not sign, and we can let the lawyers sort it out. But I should warn you, I have already spoken with our staff. They are staying with me either way. Our staff. 5 people I had personally hired, trained, and mentored. People who had sent get-well cards to my hospital room. Why? I asked, my voice barely audible. Why would you do this to me? For a moment, something like regret flickered across her face. Then it vanished, replaced by the cool efficiency that had made her such an effective event planner. It was never personal, Vanessa. Just business. You built something valuable, but you could not take it to the next level. I can. I did not sign the papers that day, or the next. Instead, I consulted 3 different lawyers, all of whom delivered the same grim assessment. While what Rebecca had done was ethically reprehensible, she had been careful to operate within legal gray areas. Fighting her would be expensive, protracted, and with no guarantee of success. Meanwhile, the business would suffer, and my already depleted health might deteriorate further. Sometimes the best revenge is living well, advised my final attorney, a grandmotherly woman with shrewd eyes and 4 decades of practice behind her. Sign the papers, take what you can get, and build something new, something better. I signed, not because I accepted defeat, but because I was playing the long game now. Rebecca expected me to fight, to rage, to make dramatic accusations that would only position her as the reasonable professional dealing with an unstable partner. Instead, I would give her exactly what she wanted, before taking everything she valued. The 30% stake provided me with enough income to recover properly and begin planning. I rented a small apartment, adopted a structured routine of physical therapy and nutritious meals, and systematically reconnected with industry contacts, not as a business owner seeking clients, but as a colleague catching up after an illness. 6 months after the cafe meeting, I was healthy again, both physically and financially. Rebecca's success continued unabated. The Henderson wedding had been featured in several high-profile publications, with Rebecca prominently quoted as the visionary founder of what was now being called the Collins approach to event planning. It was time to begin. My first move was subtle. I reached out to Sophia Martinez, the talented assistant Rebecca had poached from our original company. Sophia had been my hire originally, a diamond in the rough with extraordinary organizational skills, but limited English proficiency when she started. I had paid for her business English classes, mentored her, promoted her twice. Rebecca now relied on her completely. Just checking in, I told Sophia over coffee. How are things? Sophia looked uncomfortable. Good, busy. Rebecca has many big clients now. I am sure she does. She always was ambitious. I kept my tone light, conversational. I heard the Chen wedding was beautiful. That lotus flower ice sculpture must have been challenging to source in this climate. Sophia's eyes widened slightly. Rebecca had taken full credit for that particular innovation, an element I had actually suggested months before my illness. It was your idea, Sophia said quietly. The lotus. I remembered. I smiled. Ideas belong to whoever executes them, Sophia. Rebecca executed brilliantly, from what I hear. The seed was planted. Not accusation, not bitterness, just a gentle reminder of the truth. I left additional breadcrumbs in that conversation. References to other creative elements Rebecca had appropriated, client relationships I had cultivated, strategies I had developed. By the time we finished our coffees, Sophia was looking at me with new eyes. I did not ask her for anything. I did not need to. 3 weeks later, Sophia called me. Rebecca yelled at me today, in front of clients, because the flowers were wrong color. But I ordered exactly what she specified in the email. That sounds stressful, I sympathized. Rebecca has always been particular about details. She said I was incompetent. After 3 years. Sophia's voice trembled with hurt and indignation. She said anyone could do my job better. We both know that is not true, I assured her. You are exceptional at what you do. The best assistant I ever had. A pause. I miss working with you. 2 days later, Sophia gave notice. Rebecca was forced to handle the Pritchard Gala, a notoriously demanding client, with a temporary assistant who mixed up the dietary restrictions and sent an alcoholic mocktail to the recovering addict guest of honor. The event was not a disaster, but it was far from the flawless execution Rebecca Collins' events was known for. Small cracks appeared in her perfect facade. My next move targeted Rebecca's supplier relationships. I had maintained cordial connections with many vendors during my recovery, sending congratulatory notes when their work was featured, referring small jobs their way when possible. Now I began meeting with them individually, not as a competitor to Rebecca, but as a consultant developing a new concept in the event planning space. I am thinking of focusing on sustainable luxury events, I told Julian, who provided the exquisite floral arrangements for most high-end functions in the region. Experiences that feel opulent while minimizing environmental impact. Your preserved botanical installations would be perfect for this market. Julian, who had been experimenting with preserved flowers, but had not found sufficient demand, was intrigued. The concept has merit, but the materials are more expensive up front. The right clients will pay for innovation that aligns with their values, I assured him. I have already spoken with the Whitman Foundation about their annual gala. They are very interested in being first to showcase this approach. The Whitman Foundation was one of Rebecca's newest and most prestigious clients. Julian, no fool when it came to business opportunities, understood immediately. Perhaps we could discuss specific possibilities for their event? Conceptually, of course. Of course, I agreed with a smile. Just brainstorming at this stage. Similar conversations with the premier caterer, the most sought-after lighting specialist, and the region's top rental company yielded similar results. None of these vendors would refuse Rebecca's business. She was too important a client. But they began saving their most innovative offerings, their most exceptional ideas, for the sustainable luxury concept I was developing. When Rebecca requested proposals, she received solid professional options. Nothing extraordinary. Nothing that would make her events stand out as they once had. Meanwhile, I was building something new, not another traditional event planning business. Rebecca would expect that, and be prepared to crush any direct competition. Instead, I created an exclusive event concierge service that operated by referral only. No website, no advertisements, just whispered recommendations among the ultra-wealthy. I positioned myself not as a planner, but as a curator of exceptional experiences, someone who could access the impossible and orchestrate the unimaginable. My first client was Eliza Whitman herself, who had been increasingly disappointed with the predictable elegance of Rebecca's proposals for the foundation gala. Through Julian, I arranged a discreet introduction. I understand you are looking for something truly unprecedented for your event, I said during our meeting at her estate. Something that reflects your foundation's environmental commitments while dazzling your donors. Eliza, a shrewd businesswoman before becoming a philanthropist, studied me carefully. Rebecca Collins has an excellent reputation. Indeed she does, I agreed warmly. She delivers beautiful, flawless events. If that is what you are seeking, you could not be in better hands. But, Eliza prompted, sensing my unspoken reservation. But flawless and memorable are not always the same thing. Your guests attend dozens of perfect events each season. What will make them remember yours specifically? What will inspire them to increase their donations? 3 hours later, I left with a signed contract and a deposit that would have made Rebecca's eyes widen. The Whitman Foundation Gala would be my reintroduction to the world I had helped build, and my declaration of war against the woman who thought she had defeated me. I spent the next 2 months assembling a team of freelancers and specialists, many of whom had worked with Enchanted Events in its early days, before Rebecca streamlined operations and cut ties with those she deemed too expensive or creatively unpredictable. These were the magicians of the event world, the eccentric geniuses whose work was inconsistent but occasionally transcendent. Exactly what I needed. The Whitman Gala was scheduled for April, traditionally held in the city's most prestigious hotel ballroom. I convinced Eliza to move it to an abandoned industrial glassworks I had discovered on the river. My team transformed the cavernous space with thousands of twinkling lights suspended like stars, living walls of moss and ferns, tables made from reclaimed timber, and centerpieces of bioluminescent elements in glass tubes created by an MIT bioengineer. Instead of the expected procession of speeches and presentations, I orchestrated an immersive journey through the Foundation's environmental projects worldwide. Guests moved through shifting environments, from Arctic landscapes to rainforest canopies to coral reefs, each space showcasing the Foundation's work and offering interactive experiences that underscored the urgency of conservation. The evening culminated in a breathtaking water projection show on the river visible through the glassworks' restored windows, while a chamber orchestra performed an original composition inspired by nature's rhythms. When the final note faded, Eliza announced the evening's fundraising total, triple the previous year's record. The next morning, the gala was featured in every society column and social media channel that mattered. Revolutionary, declared the most influential lifestyle blogger in the region. The future of philanthropic events, wrote the society editor of the city paper. Requests for interviews flooded in, all asking the same question: who was behind this extraordinary experience? I declined all interviews, all photo opportunities. My name appeared nowhere in the press materials, identified only as the event curator, in Eliza's quotes. This was deliberate. I wanted the work to speak for itself, and I wanted Rebecca to know exactly who was responsible, without giving her a target to attack publicly. She knew. The morning after the gala, she sent a text that contained only 3 words. It was you. I did not reply. There was no need. The game was now in play. Over the next year, my exclusive concierge service grew entirely through referrals. I maintained my policy of privacy, never advertising, never giving interviews, never allowing my name to be featured in coverage of my events. This aura of mystery only increased demand among the elite clientele, who craved what others could not have. I raised my fees accordingly, and still maintained a waiting list. Meanwhile, Rebecca's business began showing signs of strain. Without Sophia's organizational genius, client communications sometimes faltered. Without the vendor's most innovative offerings, her events remained beautiful, but increasingly seemed derivative. Most damagingly, without the ability to claim credit for the most talked-about events of the season, her status as the region's preeminent event planner began to erode. She responded by expanding too quickly, hiring additional staff, leasing impressive offices, appearing on local television as an event expert. All attempts to cement her position at the top of an industry that was already moving past her. The final phase of my plan began at the most exclusive industry conference of the year, held at a luxury resort in wine country. Rebecca would be there, of course. She never missed an opportunity for visibility. I had declined previous invitations, but this year I accepted, agreeing also to deliver the keynote address that traditionally opened the 3-day event. When I stepped onto the stage, the murmurs began immediately. Many recognized me from my Enchanted Events days. Others had heard rumors about the mysterious curator behind the year's most extraordinary experiences. Rebecca, seated in the front row as befitted her self-appointed status, visibly paled when she saw me. "Good morning," I began, surveying the room of industry professionals. "My name is Vanessa Mitchell. Some of you knew me as the co-founder of Enchanted Events. Others may know me as the curator behind some recent projects that have received kind attention. Today, I would like to speak about resilience, reinvention, and the future of experiential celebration in an age of digital distance." The speech was not about Rebecca. It was not about betrayal or revenge or personal grievances. It was thoughtful, forward-looking, filled with insights about changing client expectations and technological possibilities. I shared concepts and approaches that positioned me as a thought leader while giving the audience genuine value. Only once did I reference my past, and I did so without rancor. When illness forced me to step back from the business I had built, I thought my professional story might be ending. Instead, I discovered it was simply changing chapters. Sometimes our greatest innovations emerge from our deepest setbacks. The standing ovation lasted nearly 2 minutes. Rebecca remained seated, her face a carefully composed mask that could not quite hide her comprehension of what was happening. This was not just my return. This was my coronation as the visionary her clients now whispered about. Throughout the conference, I was approached by potential clients, vendors eager to collaborate, and industry publications requesting interviews. I accepted these conversations with genuine warmth and professional focus, never mentioning Rebecca, never acknowledging the elephant in the room. When we inevitably encountered each other at a cocktail reception, I smiled pleasantly. "Rebecca, your panel on luxury branding was quite informative." She clutched her wine glass tightly enough that I feared it might shatter. "What exactly are you doing, Vanessa?" "Attending an industry conference," I replied mildly. "Reconnecting with colleagues. The usual." "You know what I mean," she hissed, lowering her voice as a small group of vendors approached us. "First the Whitman Gala, now this. Are you trying to ruin me?" I considered her question seriously. "No, Rebecca. I am not trying to ruin you. I am building something extraordinary. The fact that it might overshadow what you took from me is simply— what did you call it? Just business." The vendors reached us before she could respond, exclaiming over the coincidence of finding both legends in conversation. "We were just saying how amazing it would be to see you two collaborate again. The original Enchanted Events partnership was industry-changing." Rebecca forced a tight smile. "That chapter is closed, I am afraid." "Indeed," I agreed pleasantly, "though I am always open to exploring new possibilities. Speaking of which, I understand you have developed an interesting approach to projection mapping on textured surfaces? I would love to hear more about that technique." As I drew the vendors into a technical discussion, Rebecca retreated, making excuses about another appointment. Her departure went largely unnoticed as the conversation flowed around innovative approaches to sensory experiences. The final day of the conference featured the annual industry awards. Rebecca had won Event Planner of the Year 3 times running. This year, she sat through the ceremony with increasing tension as category after category was announced without her name being called. When the final and most prestigious award was introduced, her expression was one of desperate hope mingled with dread. The Visionary Impact Award recognizes not just excellence in execution, but true innovation that expands what we think possible in the celebration space, announced the association president. This year's recipient has redefined the very concept of events as transformative experiences, while maintaining a commitment to sustainability and meaningful connection. The award goes to Vanessa Mitchell. The applause was thunderous. As I accepted the etched crystal trophy, I caught Rebecca's eye briefly. She looked diminished somehow, her perfect posture slightly slumped, her signature confidence visibly shaken. For a moment, I felt a twinge of something like pity. Then I remembered the cafe, her cool voice explaining why my illness had justified her betrayal, and the feeling evaporated. My acceptance speech was gracious and inclusive, thanking collaborative partners, celebrating industry innovation broadly, and expressing genuine appreciation for the recognition. I did not gloat. I did not need to. 2 weeks after the conference, Rebecca Collins Events filed for bankruptcy. The expensive office lease, overexpanded staff, and dwindling client roster had created unsustainable financial pressure. The announcement barely caused a ripple in industry circles, where attention had already shifted to new approaches and emerging talents. 3 months later, I received an email request for a meeting from Rebecca. We arranged to meet at the same cafe, where she had presented me with the restructuring papers 18 months earlier. She arrived looking polished as always, but there was a new weariness around her eyes, a tightness to her smile. "You have won," she said without preamble as she sat down. "Completely and thoroughly. I am leaving the industry." I sipped my tea considering her words. This was never about winning or losing for me, Rebecca. What was it about then? Revenge. Justice, I corrected her. Balance. You took something I built through years of hard work and dedication. You exploited my illness and vulnerability. You betrayed my trust completely. There needed to be consequences for those choices. She nodded slowly. And now, are we finished? The question hung between us, weighted with our shared history, both the years of friendship and the bitter aftermath of betrayal. That depends on you, I finally answered. I have built something new that fulfills me creatively and professionally. I have no interest in further conflict. I could not rebuild here even if I wanted to, she admitted. My reputation is damaged, I acknowledged. But not beyond repair necessarily. Just not in this market. Rebecca studied me with new awareness. You are suggesting I start over somewhere else. I am suggesting that talents should not be wasted, even when judgment has been poor. You are an excellent event planner, Rebecca. Your attention to detail and execution is exceptional. Those skills have value, just not here. Not now. She absorbed this assessment silently. Why would you give me any advice at all? After what I did? I considered the question carefully, examining my own feelings. Because holding on to bitterness serves no purpose once justice has been achieved. And because I remember the friend you were before ambition corrupted our partnership. We did not part as friends, too much had been broken for that. But we parted with a certain closure, an acknowledgement of the cycle completed. I heard later that she had relocated to Chicago, working for an established firm in a senior, but not leadership position. She would be fine eventually, just never again at my expense. As for me, I continue to curate extraordinary experiences for clients who value innovation and meaning. My work brings me profound satisfaction, all the more precious for having been nearly lost. The business that emerged from Rebecca's betrayal is more aligned with my vision than our original company ever was. More selective, more creative, more impactful. Sometimes, late at night when I review proposals or sketch concepts for upcoming events, I remember those dark days in the hospital, the devastating meeting at the cafe, the months of careful planning and execution that followed. The path was painful, but it led me here, to a success sweeter than any I might have achieved without facing that adversity. They say revenge is a dish best served cold. I have learned it is also most satisfying when it results not just in the diminishment of those who harmed you, but in your own elevation to heights you might never otherwise have reached.